Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton rakaman agenda Awani khas di Pulau Pinang sempena dengan Trop Fest Southeast Asia, dan untuk itu saya ingin berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris because today I would like to welcome a very astounding interviewee on this set outside the studio of Astro Awani, which I'm glad I'm here for. I would like to introduce this is a guy who had the mic on stage, and I've been to a lot of movie rough cuts kind of talk sessions, but he just blew me out of water. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Elliott. I just would like to say that we have no audience of applause, but
I can clap myself.
Maybe if I say Harvey Crumpet, that would ring more bells in Malaysia. But I would like to introduce you first, because I think for every great creative content, there's always a great person behind it, because it's human touch and it's human storytelling, whether it's translated into whatever presentation on air or whether in the cinema. So please go back to the very beginning, because Trop Fest is all about aspiring filmmakers or creative content makers who haven't had the opportunity to share their stories with the world, and are hoping with that one shot will kick off their life to a new path forever, for the better. And you have shared a lot of stories. I have to cram it up, but my intro will say no toilet where you were working after 5. You were getting government aid, living off welfare, sort of. So from there onwards, your life changed because you won an Oscar. So the thing that won you an Oscar was a short movie, stop animation, called Harvey Crumpet. Please share us that story.
Well, listen, an Oscar was something I never thought of, and any awards. I don't make films to win awards, and I'd won a lot of awards before the Academy Award. And everyone said, oh, if you win an Academy Award, your life will be changed forever. And I didn't really believe them, because, for me, it's all about making films, and awards allow you to keep making films. They're very important, but I don't try and think too much about them. But what happened, Harvey Crumpet was my 4th short film, and my other shorts before them were all very short. They're all 5-minute short films.
All animation, right?
All plasticine, claymation or stop-motion animation. But Harvey Crumpet was 23 minutes, so it was quite a long short film. And we had very low expectations. We actually made it for television in Australia. And so we finished the film, and then of course you enter film festivals, and because it was a long short film, we really didn't think it would do very well, because usually short films are best under 10 minutes, and this was 23. But suddenly it started winning prizes at film festivals in France and Germany and America, and suddenly we thought, ooh, this is doing better than we thought. And then we won a prize at a film festival in France, which made us eligible for Academy Award consideration, and I didn't know what that meant either. But then we realised that we had a chance of being nominated for an Academy Award, and we were told that if we were to be nominated, we'd get a telephone call at midnight on a Wednesday night, and if the phone rang, we'd be nominated, and if the phone didn't ring, too bad, So we all sat by the telephone, and it didn't ring, and we waited another 5 minutes, still nothing, and we waited about 20 minutes, and then by then we thought, we haven't been nominated. Then it rang, and I picked up the phone, and it was my friend Greg ringing to see whether the phone had rung. So I said, get off the phone, Greg, and slammed the phone down. We're all disappointed, and people started to leave my house, and the media were there, and they started to leave. And then the phone rang again, so I picked it up, thinking it was just another friend of mine, and it was the Academy to say, Mr. Elliott, your film Harvey Crumpet has been nominated for an Academy Award. And of course I had nothing to say, but okay. Now what do I do? So 4 weeks later we found ourselves in Los Angeles, and for us it was a thrill just to be nominated, because the other films that were nominated were films from Disney, Pixar and the Fox Studios, and they had big budgets. And I was honoured just to be amongst these big studio films, and We had very low expectations again. Even my mother said we weren't going to win. But we went to the Academy Awards and we sat in our chairs and it got to our category and then they read out the nominees and then they said the winner is Harvey Crumpet. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm sure they just said Harvey Crumpet. But then I thought maybe I heard Harvey Crumpet but they actually said Disney. And I thought, if I stand up and it's not us, I'll look really stupid.
1 billion people watching.
1 billion people around the world watching live. And there's an Oscar myth that they come and whisper in your ear beforehand that you've won, you know, Mr. Elliott, you've actually won. But no one whispers in your ear. So it was live, we were shocked. And Jeffrey Rush, who was our narrator in Harvey Crumpet, he gave me some advice. He said, if it is you, he said, you'll know it's you because a camera crew will come running down the aisle and if there's a camera pointing at you, it means it's you and you've won. And he was right. I looked and there was this camera pointing at me and he said that behind that lens will be 1 billion people watching live. So when I saw that camera, I thought, oh, it's me, I've won. And so my producer and I went up on stage and my life has been changed ever since. It was almost 10 years ago to the day that happened. Yeah.
So what is it about Harvey Crumpet that has gotten you this? If you can share with us, how come you had the story of Harvey Crumpet and how you played it out?
Well, look, I think I still don't know why we won. You know, a good story is crucial. It has nothing to do with how much money we spent on the film because our budget was very small compared to what Disney, Pixar and Fox were spending on theirs. We hadn't really done much lobbying or advertising. So really, we won because it was a story that resonated. We may have only won by 1 vote. But I think what's happened since is I've realised that Harvey Crumpet is a film that has longevity. Okay. It's still making people laugh, still making people cry. It's very universal. And it has a long shelf life. It's still going along and still making people happy. And I didn't know any of this when I was making it. I was very naive. Okay. I really just made the film from instinct and intuition. And really, I just made the film for myself. And if other people liked it, then that was great. But really, there was no big plan or there was no big strategy. It was, you know.
Adam, I have to go for the first commercial break, but once we are back, having been a film student myself here in Penang, we have a university called University of Science Malaysia, and they are one of the most pioneering film school in this country. And I remember one tutor telling me that you do not do a script about yourself. You know, this is not about you. You must go out there, see the world, do research, and do it. But when I was listening to your presentation, you know, the story must work for you first. You must be convinced. And you say, do story about you, but what you know. So let's combine that and see that perspective, because I guess for a lot of budding filmmaker in Malaysia, we always look at what's difficult, you know, the gaps that we have rather than what do we have, what actually do we have with us, and start doing it. But we'll say, no, what claymation, I don't even know how to shape clay, you know, for example. So let's talk about that after this short break. Terima kasih kerana masih menonton agenda Awani yang dirakamkan khas di Pulau Pinang sempena dengan Trop Fest Southeast Asia. And I would like to continue now with Adam Elliott, a very, very great storyteller using claymation or stop animation. If you can please narrate to us what's so special about the plot of Harvey Crumpet, because for those who might not have seen it, then it will be great for them to hear it for the first time from you yourself.
Well, Harvey Crumpet, he's a man who has perpetual bad luck. You know, he has more bad luck than the average person. Okay. And he's a character that everyone can identify with, because we've all had bad luck. Yeah. And you really feel empathy for Harvey. You don't feel sympathy so much, but empathy, because you can relate and identify. Okay. And even though Harvey Crumpet is plasticine, audiences somehow believe he's a real person. and it's his biography. It's a new word I invented called clayography.
Okay.
Claymation, biography come together. And in my animations, I don't have talking animals. They're not like Disney or Pixar. You know, my films are based on real people. And I think the reason Harvey Crumpet works is because he's based on a real person. He's based on people I know. When I was a young boy, I had do you have Cub Scouts, the Scout movement?
Yes, definitely.
I was a Cub Scout, and the Arkela, the leader of the Scouts, Arkela had a steel plate in his head. He'd been in a car accident and they'd put a steel plate in his head. And I was fascinated that he had this steel plate. And I used to ask him, is it magnetised? Can we stick things to it? And can you pick up radio signals? And I was fascinated by him. So, and what I do when I write my scripts, I write down things that I see, people I meet, stories I hear, anecdotes. I eavesdrop on people on, you know, in airports, and so I write down all these notes. And so when I go to write my scripts, I have this resource to work from. And Harvey Crumpet has lots of ingredients from many years of observation. So that's where I get all the idiosyncrasies. There's a lot of myself in Harvey Crumpet.
And that's not something wrong in your eyes?
No,
that's
no.
okay.
I think so many filmmakers too are trying to make genre films, and they're trying to, you know, worry about, well, they worry too much about their demographic. Who are they making the film for? And I truly believe that if you make it for yourself first, and you make it to the best quality film you can make, then it will travel, and it will translate, and it will resonate with audiences. My characters are also archetypes. So Harvey Crumpet is an archetypal loser. He's the archetypal underdog. He's a person who we laugh at, but we really identify with. We're laughing with him in many cases too. So it's very hard to work out why Harvey Crumpet has truly done what it's done and why it won the Oscar. But you know, I've made so many other films. I see them like children, and I'm very proud of each one of my children. But Harvey Crumpet's the one that gets the most attention, and you know, I'm very proud of him. And he is just a blob of plasticine. But I think too, with each film, I try not to think too much about what I did. I just keep moving forward, and I write from intuition. There's a lot of how to make a good film. There's lots of script writing books out there. I think if you read too many of those script writing books, that you can become a little bit...
too lost in the form rather than the substance of it.
And it can come a bit contrived and a bit forced. So I'm a true believer in writing from intuition.
I guess that's the first real big challenge. A lot of people have ideas, but a lot of that never see light, printed somewhere or written somewhere. What gives you that drive to translate as close to possible what's in your head? Because it's so easy when we go to the script form or even a screenplay form, we tend to be, you know, lost in the format of it rather than what it's trying to do. So how do you keep close and true and honest to the original idea that came in?
Look, I love making audiences laugh. I love making an audience cry. One of my aims with each one of my scripts and films is to make the audience cry. Now that's a strange ambition to have, but I really love sitting at the back of an audience, and when they get up to leave, you can see that they've got their tissues out and they've had a bit of a cry. And it means that the film has worked on an emotional level. I've emotionally connected with the audience. So that drives me, but also I'm from a family of entertainers. My father was an acrobat. My brother's an actor. So I'm from a family of storytellers. And when I was young, we used to sit around the television at the end of the day and have our meal, and we weren't allowed to watch television because we had to sit around and talk about what had happened to each of us that day. So I think that's where I learnt the skill of telling a story well, and that's where I think I developed the passion for wanting to be a filmmaker and an animator. And you know what, being an animator compared to being a live action director, in animation we have total control, where we can be megalomaniacs. We can, you know, our actors can look however we want them to act. We can create any worlds we want.
And they cannot disagree with you.
They cannot disagree. If they give a bad performance, we roll them up in a ball and throw them away, and they don't have tantrums, they don't need trailers. So we get to play God, you know, and that sounds egotistical, but I'm a controlling person. I like to be in total control when I make a film.
Okay.
And that's why I'll never move into live action, because in animation you have total power.
Even in the TV newsroom, I'm sure a lot of people would identify when the part you mentioned about control.
Yes.
But I have to go for the second break. That's my control, being controlled. But once we are back, we also have Robert Luke, another great Australian who's made it big in Hollywood. But he's been there, and when he said that he's never made anything about Australia, I could feel some sadness there.
Yes.
But you are the complete opposite. You could have chosen the same path, right with that Hollywood Oscar wave. But no, your creative instincts told you to stay put there in Australia. And you even mentioned in your presentation about cultural connectivity, the way I see it that way. Culture is important to you, and you wanted to tell the story from Australia, about Australia, to the rest of the world. So why is that, and what drives that, you know? Because it's so easy to look at the dollar signs and the agents and the infrastructure that they have in Hollywood rather than not. So let's discuss that, what drives Aidan on that after this. A lot of us will never get to touch the Oscar, but Adam, sitting in front of me, has seen. He even memorized the serial number right on stage in front of billions of people, because he was looking for his name somewhere. But you have to catch the special recording of Adam's presentation on Awani on that. But now I want to go straight to the part where, why are you still in Australia? Yes, it's a good country to make movies, and we know a lot of creative people are there. But we know also that a lot of creative Australian in the creative field has moved to Hollywood or even Europe. But you insisted on staying, and you have sort of this mission to connect culturally what's in Australia to the outside world.
Well, yes, so you mentioned Robert Leketic before, and Robert and I went to the same film school when we graduated in the same year, but like so many filmmakers, we each had different ambitions, and you know, Robert wanted to make big, you know, commercial films, and Hollywood was the place to do that. So that was his strategy and his ambition. And because you know, I love animation and I love telling very personal and very small films, I really just wanted to stay in Australia, and at that stage I had no choice. You know, the government was giving me money to make Australian short animated films.
After they send you congratulatory messages in your postbox.
Well, yes. Well, that's the thing. After the Oscar, of course, the doors in Hollywood opened, and I was offered many opportunities to work on Hollywood feature animations. But you know what? Deep down, I knew that if I'd have said yes, and the money would have been great, I knew maybe after a couple of weeks of working on somebody else's film as the director, I'm too selfish. I really just want to write and direct my films, and sadly, money has never been something I've been aiming to get more of. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love money and I'd like more of it. But
it's not the first priority.
No, filmmaking for me is very, very personal, and I love...
It's the story.
It's the story, and over the years I've realised that I'm very patriotic. I love Australia. Having said that, you know, there's a lot of things about Australia I don't like. Okay. And there's been many occasions where I've woken up in the morning and thought, you know what, I'm going to Hollywood. I've had enough of Australia. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and but I think now, as I'm getting older and more mature, I realise that I'm a self-appointed storyteller for my culture. And so when I come to places like Penang and you know, Europe and in all these other countries, the message I try and give to young emerging filmmakers is tell stories about yourself. If you're struggling for ideas, you know, look inwards, don't look outwards. Look at your family, look at your culture, and the thing about the world is that we're all interested in each other's cultures.
Yes.
You know, by coming to Penang and Tropfest, Southeast Asia, I've learned a lot about Malaysia. I've met a lot of people from Singapore today as well. I've met some people from Cambodia. So I'm learning all this stuff, and I think interesting today too, listening to Malaysian filmmakers talk, that they're having the same problems that we have in Australia, and that we have a cultural cringe or an inferiority complex, thinking that we're not as good as that country or Hollywood, you know. But you have wonderful filmmakers here, and I think it has to do with self-esteem too. And Hollywood's really good at self-esteem. Hollywood has got lots of self-esteem.
Yes.
Australia's always struggled. We're always feeling, because we're a young country, that we're not as good as the rest of the world. But we're getting better. We're maturing, and that's why I think our filmmaking is getting stronger. And we lose a lot of our filmmakers, we lose a lot of our actors to Hollywood, and that's not a bad thing, because they go over there, they learn a lot, and they often come back too. Jeffrey Rush is a good example. He goes off, comes back. Russell Crowe, you know, so they all come back and they give back to Australia. But yes, you know, Hollywood is always, you know, there in the distance as a place that I might go one day. But for the moment, I'm very happy in Australia, and you know, Hollywood's a nice place to visit. But I'm always glad to get back on that plane and come home. You know,
and be at the front nose of the jumbo jet.
At the front of the plane. Yes.
Maybe heading towards the end of this chit chat that we're having. The world is changing. I mean, society has changed rapidly as compared to the last century. So how do you see that changing the creative content, animation, live action, or whatever it is? It's because the way things are being consumed has changed. The viewers' expectation themselves has changed. The world is more interconnected. You know, we might feel alien to some of the stuff that Hollywood was doing before, but now with the internet, YouTube and whatnot, we expect our local industry to be closer to that than ever. So where do you see yourself and a lot of other things? Because actually, if I look at Hollywood, James Cameron has been mentioned here, a lot of the stuff that he put in his 10-year movie to make, which is Avatar, identifies with Asia. You know, environment, nice scenery, colors, green. So, but why can't we ourselves, these parts of the world? And I know there's also a movement in Australia to be more of Asia rather than not. So that's why football is playing in the Asia qualifying. So how do you look at it? Maybe Asian countries and Australia need to partner and collaborate, and then bridge that gap and move on. Absolutely. Australia's always been obsessed with Hollywood, just like so many countries are. But that's changing, because the wonderful thing about filmmaking is it's in this state of flux and transition. And it's all because of digital technology. We can now have access to any film we want via the internet. We can upload, download, we can do all that wonderful stuff. And we can now reach greater audiences. And, you know, look, I think for me it's a bit about being universal. So I want to make films that people in Sweden can relate to, and Iran, and you know, all these different countries. And that's hard. It's very hard to please everybody, and that's why my characters are archetypes. I try and create very universal characters. But also, you know, we do need to collaborate. And Australia now is doing more and more co-productions with other countries, you know, co-productions with France and New Zealand, and we're starting to share more, particularly with New Zealand, because of what Peter Jackson's doing over there with all the, you know, the Hobbits and the Lord of the Rings. We share a lot of crews, so a lot of, like my art director after Mary Max, he went and worked on The Hobbit, and now he's come back, and the world's becoming really, as Robert Leketic said this afternoon in his speech, the world is our set now. Like Hollywood just doesn't make films in Hollywood anymore. Agreed. Hollywood makes its films all over the place, and that's a good thing. And but yeah, look, I think Australia is growing up as a nation. It's realising it is part of the Asia Pacific region, and it's stopping its obsession with Europe and America and realising our closest neighbours are you, and we should be, you know,
collaborating more. So hopefully that'll continue. Well, look, just do it. I know, is it Nike had that logo, you just do it, you know, but I'm annoyed that they stole that because I like that expression. And it is just doing it, because I think too many filmmakers procrastinate, to spend too much time analysing what everyone else is doing. And so in the morning I get up at 5:30 and I just start. And sometimes I start badly, and sometimes I get to lunchtime and what I've animated just hasn't worked. But I just chip away at it, because animation is slow, it's tedious, it's expensive. But I just get up each day and just do it.
Spoken like the true master storyteller. Thank you so much, Adam Elliot, for making time to be on Agenda Awani. Thanks to you for watching. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri dan kepada pelbagai platform yang ada di Astro Awani, sama ada Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, apa, terus buat turun aplikasi mudah alih iOS dan Android. Terima kasih kepada Tropfest Southeast Asia buat pertama kali diadakan di Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. Sekian, selamat malam. Thank you so much.
Thank you, it was lovely, thank you.